so proudly we hailed, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave out through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the fray, and the home of the brave.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Freedom Network. I'm Gary Rosenberg, your host. So glad that you joined us once again for another edition of the Freedom Network. You're finding us on NCTV 11, 191. You might be finding us online. Wherever you're finding us, we're glad that you found us. Special guest will be here today. We're going to get to that just in a few short minutes. We'll tell you all about that. Online, you can get the group, the Freedom Network. It's growing and growing. We've shifted most people from the page to the group. So now we can focus on growing the group. That's what you guys want to do. That's what we're going to do. timorgary@gmail.com throughout the program or anytime during the week. We answer every single email that we get. We try to get some of them out on the air. Now, special guest today here on the network, we'll be talking about the schools right here in Northbridge and schools in general. If somebody has a general question, if we can answer it from anywhere, we'll do our best to do so. Many of you know him as Mike for Schools, Mike Labrasser. He's going to be here. But first, we just want to get through a couple of emails, and then we're going to bring him on in. He's really here. You just can't see him, but don't worry, you will in a minute. All right, emails. Timmy. Timmy says, Gary, I can't believe the list of what the government spends money on that you started last week. Actually, as you always say, our money, not just money. Anyway, can we get our reps on the show and see if they're actively fighting to save the state and country money, or are they just talking? Well, we will send the invite out formally and see what comes back, Timmy. We will. We have extended the opportunity for them to come on. So far, no, but you know what? We got some pretty good representatives. I think if we put a little bit of extra pressure on you, and I know one of you watches the program, so come on down to the Freedom Network. John says, hey, Gary, great show. Keep up the good work and don't back down. I love the idea of expanding NNC, which is a local group that we have to include all small towns in America. It could be very cool. We've been talking to members about this on NNC. I've been doing a lot of messaging back and forth with people. I know it's something that people want, so I'm just kind of weighing the pros, the cons, seeing what it is. But there is a lot of support for that, just that networking with other small town people, small town governments and stuff like that, to see what they do when they have issues, problems, and locally, so we know. It's nice to know what's going on in Upton and what's going on in Blackstone or what's going on here. So there's been a lot of interest in that. We're pondering it. We're leaning that way. But if you want, join NNC and get your opinions on there. Teresa says, ever get any contact from the town about the questions? I can't believe that the people in town don't really care about it. I don't know if it's that they don't really care about it, Teresa. I just think that at some point you got to just say it is what it is, and you got to move forward and keep doing what you're doing. Never give up. That's what you do. So we won't give up. We'll just keep moving forward. We'll eventually get some kind of answers. Don't you worry. Somehow. Jane. I love Obama, and I bet you will not read this email on the air. Well, you lost a bet. I wish I'd known what we were betting, Jane. I also disagree with your politics, but bet that you won't make that on the show either. Obama is the best president we have ever had. You should be glad to have him. Jane, I just disagree. I'm 180 degrees from you on that one. But I'd love you to call me up sometime. You email me all the time. Call the show. Today wouldn't be the perfect day, but call the show next week. Maybe we need to have an Obama show. I try to stay away from him so much so I'm not seen as constantly bashing him. I know we have the group of guys in Northbridge that sit and they take bets on how long it will take for me to bash Obama. So, you know what? Maybe we have to have one of those days. I could be into that. We'll see what happens next week. Rex says, Gary, let's have a show about who's running for president. I think you're right. We cannot have Jeb or Hillary. I had thought about Jeb, but honestly, I think you've convinced me otherwise. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, 1988 to today, and possibly 4 years after next year, is too much for three families to run the United States of America. Enough of the Bushes, enough of the Clintons, and Lord, enough of the Obamas. We'll move on from there. Andrew says, Gary, you're out of control, and I love it. Keep up the good work. Great to have a show like this in town. Thank you, Andrew. Sonny says, Gary, please run for selectman. I don't think they would know how to handle you, and I would love to see someone in there with the guts to buck the system. Pretty pleased with sugar on top. Sonny, I don't know how I can do it. If I did it, I'll tell you this much, the show would go away, because if I spend one more night away from my family with all the stuff I have going on professionally and personally, I think that they will kill me. But it's a good idea. Maybe we can talk Mike into it. We'll see. And I wanted to note to Barry. Barry, I know you've been sending me some emails on the smart meters. I am going to get back to you in the near future. I do need, and I've got from the Worcester Tea Party, an expert on meters, and they're going to come in. I'm going to get him back in. He's been here before. He's been to this studio before, and we're going to get him back in there. All right. Now, one other thing, and then we'll get to the schools. The Freedom Network is announcing, and we're doing this in conjunction with another group that I'll get into when I have more time with you, but I want to let you know, we're going to be picking a charity that we're going to adopt, and we plan to start this here in Northbridge, and anyone that wants to join for their communities, and it doesn't just have to be in Northbridge, but we certainly could use your help here, contact me via email, tim.or.gary@gmail.com. I'm thinking about the local food banks. We want to spread it out as far as we can. We'd love to be able to let it touch as many states as we can. We know we have a multi-state reach here with the wonderfulness of being able to be online. So I want you to really think about that. Contact me for details. I'll have more info in the future. And on our Facebook page, the Freedom Network, or group. I put page, it's group. I know, I'm sorry, we got rid of the group. We're going for the page. So make sure that you join the group and get involved. You know, we do a lot with food banks. Around the holidays, you always see that's when it always happens. I'm thinking that we can do this 12 months a year, maybe once a month. We're going to keep track of how much food we donate, and we're going to see how much food we can actually donate to people that need food, right? Who said conservatives don't care? Come on. All right, Northbridge residents at town meeting, May 5th, 7 p.m. in the middle school auditorium. This is the spring annual town meeting. Try to be there. We'll certainly get something going on. From the Freedom Network, we'll have something. I think I should be able to be there myself. And that catches us up. Bam, we went through that faster than we've ever gone through it before. So let me, without any further ado, we'll change camera angles here. Let me introduce Mike. Mike, welcome to the Freedom Network.
Thanks,
I'm
Gary.
really glad that you decided to come in.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. We always call you Mike for Schools.
Yeah.
That's your Facebook group, right?
Yeah, I have a page.
You have a page.
It's a page.
It's a
I don't know
page.
the difference between a group or a page.
You know,
have a
I don't
page.
really understand the whole thing. People told me it was easier to comment and to discuss on a group. So I figured I'd go with I had both, and everybody was split in two places. So posting on two different places I wasn't too thrilled with. But at the end of the day, you can contact him there or find him there. He's got a lot of great updates going on there. But I want to welcome you to the Freedom Network. The million questions people have emailed in. But one thing I did want to ask you as we start off is, you know, what is it that we know this is a large task that you undertake. What is it that sparks that interest to take and make such a huge commitment and take on such a huge responsibility? And before we start talking about all the issues and all that stuff, which we're going to get to, what got you here? How'd you wind up here?
Good question. I never really had thought I would be doing anything like this. It was 8 years ago when I decided to run for the school committee. At the time, we were going through moving toward an override.
Mm-hmm.
There had been some other controversial issues within the schools. My kids were very young at the time. My son was in kindergarten that year. And I felt that either I could stand around and complain about it or I could try to get involved. And I decided to get involved. I ran for my first term on school committee in 2007. and didn't know how I would like it. I think I like it more and more every year, as much as people wonder why I do it and think it's kind of crazy. But it's a lot of fun. I love learning about it, what's going on, and what's behind the scenes. And I'm learning about what happens local government, state government, more and more every day. It's a lot of
Excellent.
fun.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Let's start off by let's talk about some of the things going on in the schools. Let's talk about some good stuff first.
Okay.
Because there's always plenty of stuff. We can pick apart a million things, and I'm sure we'll get into all kinds of stuff. But what's going on? What are some of the good things going on?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of good things, and Superintendent Stickney has done a great job of trying to promote that. She's actually been very active on Twitter. We have a Facebook page now, the school department does, trying to promote a lot of the things that are happening. A couple of recent things is last night at our school committee meeting, we recognized one of the high school teachers, Sherry Travers, Mrs. Travers, as our as our school teacher of the year for Northbridge, and she's been in the district for a while now. I don't know exactly how long, but she is so involved beyond just in the classroom. She's very active in the community. She's the the freshman class advisor. She's involved. You mentioned food banks. She's been very active. There's a community garden that the students run and maintain, and she's been very active in that. So that was a nice thing to be able to recognize one of our teachers for doing that.
Fantastic.
We just had some high school students, I think just last week, or even could be this week, actually this week, are down in Florida for International DECA Championships. They won an award at the States, and they qualified to go to the international event down in Florida. So a couple of our students got to do that. District-wide, our administrators have been recognized for the work that they do with their educator evaluations. They've been asked to come and speak at conferences, and they've been featured in a film that's being put together by the Department of Education on how districts can and should be evaluating their teachers, and we were picked as one of the model districts in the
Wow.
state. So there's really a lot of things, from the students to the teachers to the administration, that is happening.
That's fantastic. It's great to hear. Isn't it good to hear good things? Because there always are a lot of good things. You can find good things all over the place, and we do always focus on the bad. But it's nice to hear some of that, that input. Couple emails blasting in. We're going to grab them. We definitely will grab them. Let me go to here. One thing that we've been talking about a lot online, and I'm sure a lot in meetings, is busing.
Yeah.
So this is something that people are on all sides of this thing.
Yeah.
It seems like everyone's all over the place. Now, I'm going to just come out and just tell you, I agree that if it can save further cuts in the school, then like other towns, we should charge. Now, I don't want to just be like other towns to be like other towns. So I don't want to just say we should do whatever other towns do. But at the same time, it does seem as though it's a viable way to possibly save or increase the education of our children, because it's going to come out of the budget, right? It's coming out of the budget. So how much does busing cost the schools? Or did
You
it?
had to ask me that exact number. Well, we saved.
all right.
We
I won't
saved.
hold you to an exact number.
We saved a little over $200,000 in the reductions
Wow.
that we did. We reduced by about 4 buses, and unfortunately, that's going to displace students. There are probably about 300 students that have been eligible to ride the bus will no longer be eligible to ride the bus,
Okay.
and another 300 students who will still be eligible but will be able to only ride if they pay a fee. So it's unfortunate, but to your point, that between the fee that we're charging and the savings by the reduction in the number of buses, that's a difference of about $260,000. That's 5-6 teachers. 4 or 5 teachers. That's a big difference. And for quite a while, we've been busing beyond what we're legally required to do, and we still are. We originally talked about what would it look like if we went down to the bare minimum, and we decided that it was too much. It would be too much of an impact on the students, the families, and for our community. We know the traffic issues, and that's something we still need to continue to work on and address. But we felt somewhere in the middle was a good compromise, and I know it's going to still inconvenience people, and that's terrible. But we're making some tough decisions, and we're doing the best we can.
Okay.
I can get you that number. This is the budget book.
Yeah, look at that, huh?
Every single piece of paper in this book is online at mps.org. So if anyone is interested in seeing the detail in the budget, It's all right here online. It's been online for quite a while. But our transportation budget for next year is going to be right around $800,000.
All right, so that's, I mean, it's a lot of money that
Yeah.
goes into that. We got somebody that's calling in. Let's see what we got here. Did I hang up on them? You are on the Freedom Network. Hello.
Good evening, Gary, and good evening, Mike, and
Hello.
Good.
good evening, Gary, and good evening, Mike. And I just want to say you got an excellent show tonight, Gary.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I'd like to start off by saying, Mike, I really appreciate what you do for the town, and you really are a reflection of an excellent government representative of the town, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
And Gary brought up a good. I think you just talked about the $200,000 to potentially bring back the full school busing for FY16, and I think it's something. I don't know if the town would look at, because Article 5 on the Springtown meeting is they're talking about spending $200,000 to $300,000 on these new smart water meters for the town side, and in my opinion, I don't think we actually need them. I would rather see that money go to the school system and bring the busing back up, and hopefully maybe that can be brought up at town meeting or whatnot. But and then the other thing is a lot of people have been scratching their heads about this indirect cost that DPW charges the schools relative to they have to plow the roads because of the buses and plow the sidewalks because of the children walk on the sidewalks during the winter and they have to plow that. I mean, do you feel these indirect costs are reasonable? Because I know Melissa Walker did an excellent presentation on that, and I just wonder if there's been any room to maybe reduce some of those costs that the school has to pay. And I'll let you comment on that, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, the indirect cost is a little bit of a tricky issue because it doesn't actually cost the town or the schools additional money. They're just saying if it costs the DPW X amount of money to maintain the roads in the winter, since the schools obviously require that level of service, how much should we allocate toward the schools? It doesn't, it would never change what the town pays for that. And there's also administrative costs for the support staff in the town hall, whether it be payroll, those types of resources, which are also included in the indirect cost. Now, we discussed that with the town manager, superintendent, and the business manager do. We don't always agree on the percentages or the amounts, but we've been able to come to some agreements in the last couple of years. And, the indirect costs are what is included when the state looks at our total expenditure for the school department beyond just our operating budget. So yeah, if those indirect costs could come down, that would require the town to put more money directly back into the operating budget. So that would be a different issue that we would have to discuss. I mean, I don't think they're unreasonable. I think there's always room for improvement. But they do a great job, and we try to work with them as best we can, for sure.
And I know in the past the selectmen talked about like having a reserve fund of putting maybe 4 or 5% away from every line item, on the municipal side to help the schools. But I guess that never materialized. And I know they promised to offer support to try to get more state aid for the schools. And I hope that they do carry through in that promise. And again, I want to thank you and the school committee and the superintendent, for the excellent job that you're doing under these tight budget constraints, and also the management of the schools that have not taken any pay raises, but that has not been applicable to the municipal side. But again, I just want to thank you and the school committee and the school superintendent for doing the best you can under these budgetary times.
Thank you.
Thank you too, Gary.
All right, bud.
Thank you. I really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Appreciate your support, my friend. You always call in. You always have something nice to add. There's a lot. I mean, he had a lot there. There was obviously a lot there. I mean, everything from meters, and I promise you, I will have that. I have a guy that really knows about these meters. And, there is some bad news about them out there, but we'll find out if it's really just gossip or not. But we are spending a lot of money on them. And I don't know who really benefits. I guess depending upon who you ask and who you look at it. But people do ask constantly. If we don't spend it here, can't we put it here? So that's a constant, a big picture question. But just shooting back to the busing.
Yeah.
What is the fee structure? What does it look like? I mean, what do you have a breakdown of it?
Yeah, if anyone is interested, if they don't, and I apologize, I have a lot of information here because I wanted to be able to answer your questions, and I can't
You didn't
remember.
know what I
I
was
can't
gonna say, so
remember
you brought it
anything.
all.
I can't remember anything anymore. The fee is $200
Okay.
per student. So we are legally required to provide busing for students kindergarten through sixth grade who live beyond 2 miles from the school. So anybody in that situation, we have to provide busing for. We can't charge you for busing. We're legally required to provide it. As I mentioned, we are still providing busing within or beyond that legal requirement. So anybody who is not legally required to receive busing, but we're still going to allow you to ride the bus, that's when you'll be eligible. That's when you would be required to pay a fee.
I see.
And that's where the $200 fee comes in. So, for example, students at Balmer, if you go to Balmer and, if you live within 2 miles, but you live outside of a mile, then you're able to ride the bus, but at a fee. If you're
And-
within a mile, you're not eligible to ride the bus at all.
At all.
Yeah.
And so is that your $200 fee?
So the students between the 1 and 2 miles would pay the fee.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Hopefully that answers. I think that should answer that question.
And I started to say, if you go to the NPS website, there's a lot of great information out there. I hope people take some time to look at it because there is a lot of information on there. I think the very first thing there now is a link to the transportation, and there's a letter, there's a frequently asked questions document, and then there's the updated school committee policy on busing. So
Gotcha.
should answer all your questions, and if not, I've had some people reach out to me directly. Feel free to do that, or contact the administration office as well.
Fantastic. How is the fee decided? How'd you come up with $200?
Honestly, we looked around what other districts were charging, and we saw anywhere from $180 to $300, even maybe a little bit more. So we picked something in the middle, sort of on the lower end. There was no real science to it, other than we knew what other towns were charging, and we wanted to try to be as reasonable as we could, because we've raised a lot of fees this year, unfortunately, across the board. So we were trying to be a little bit sensitive to that. So some schools, I think, pick 180 because there's 180 days of school. So it's $1 a day.
Right.
So we went a little bit more than
Right.
that.
Right.
so.
Not much though.
Yeah.
Not much more, I guess, than a $1 a day.
And that's going
break
to,
it
we
down.
project that will probably generate about $40,000. It's not a lot when we're spending $800,000 on busing, but it helps to defray the costs a little bit.
Well, yeah, absolutely it does. So let me ask you this: is there any allowance for low income?
Absolutely. Any students who are on free and reduced lunch are not required to pay if they're eligible to ride the bus. So if you're within that mile at Balmer, for example, it doesn't matter, you still wouldn't ride the bus. But if you're in that 1 to 2 mile range and you're a free or reduced lunch student, then you get to ride the bus for free.
Okay.
And that's the law. There's nothing we can do about that.
Okay, nice. And I think that's good. So I think that should answer it. Now you can go to the website. You can go on to, I know a ton of you are on Facebook, so you can go on Facebook and very simply just find Mike for Schools. Just find the group. You can go on there. Very good about getting, and then you can send them messages. You can talk, but you can also put it out there in public, and then other people can get their questions answered as well. All right, let me get one of these emails here. This one, hi Gary, can you ask Mike from Schools? See, this is you now.
It's for schools. It's
You know
not
what I
from
mean?
schools.
Right, and that's, we have to get that correct. This is from Milan, is a frequent emailer. Can you ask if there are any plans or ideas being discussed about keeping our children safer in schools? While I appreciate the practice, lockdown drills, I think we can agree. In your opinion, I guess you say that you feel that they're a joke because it breaks your heart to think that the best plan of action is to have kids hide in the classroom with the door locked. And I get that. It's not a great course of action. Okay, it's obviously we used to have people hide under their desks because there was nuclear war drills going on. My father used to tell me stories about that. Obviously, it's not gonna do anything for you. But I think the point of where he's going with this is, have we talked about or explored I guess either teachers or having a dedicated police officer in each school, or having an armed guard in the school. And I think that's where you're going. If I'm wrong, you can email me back. But that's what he's thinking. You know,
Sure.
any talk about that?
In terms of an armed guard at any of the schools, we've never had that conversation as a school committee. It's not even been entertained, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
We do have a school resource officer. We have one who supports all 4 schools. He spends his day going between the schools as well as to other venues, including students' homes, court visits, things like that. He's very active and has become a really big, important part of the school community. This is something we added a couple years ago, and originally it was going to be partially funded 50-50 schools and the police department. Then we had the failed override and we made those cuts, and that was one of the positions we just did not feel we could sustain. Thankfully, the police department and the chief and the town manager agreed to keep that fully on the police department's budget, which we really appreciate. Obviously, there are times when he's pulled away to handle other police duties, but for the most part, he's
Sure.
fully dedicated to the schools, and he's there doing a lot of great work for us. We also had, you mentioned the shelter down, hiding in a closet. There was a post on the Northbridge Police Facebook page last week. They just conducted some active shooter training at the high school. I think it was Thursday or Friday last week. So teaching the staff, what to do in those situations. So having them be more prepared to handle those, which is becoming more of a common practice than
Yeah.
hiding in a closet.
Well, that's that's good info. I mean, personally, and I personally would absolutely support. I would support that. That's just my feeling. I feel you got a crazy guy. Hopefully, we don't have any crazy guys around town. But God forbid you do. Just my opinion. You got to be ready to take care of it. So maybe it's something that that we'll talk about in the future. It's never anything you want to talk about after the fact. So I think in those areas we got to be very proactive. So I hope that answers your email. At least gives you some information as to where they are. And that's something that we definitely could take up on a future show.
One thing, if I could just follow up on that,
course
a
you
couple of
can.
years ago, unfortunately, right after the Newtown incident, we did come forward to the town to request some additional funding to implement some security measures, and the town did support that through a one-time debt capital exclusion. We put electronic key fobs in all the doors for the staff to come in, so we didn't have to leave the doors unlocked when the building was, so staff could get in and out. So there was improved security there. We added cameras, and we also purchased and put blocking screens over some of the windows of like the cafeteria building, parts of the buildings which were exposed to the outside, so students could be safe. So we were, the superintendent at the time, Superintendent Spatonik was active, worked with the safety committee in town, both chiefs, and did a great job of trying to pull that together. So that's some other things that we've done
Okay.
in the district.
Yeah, I mean, to me, there's, I'm a pretty fiscally conservative guy, but I couldn't care less what it costs to keep the kids safe. I mean, that's just, to me, that's just something that maybe we can explore. Curriculum. Curriculum is an interesting topic, which I know is not probably your forte of topics, but do you have any insight into what, I know that, let me leave it as broad
Are
as
you
I
talking
can.
about the middle school? Is that what you're
I'm
about?
talking about, I'm talking about the middle school, and I'm talking about what I have heard, everything from they're getting rid of history, they're combining history, they're going to make history into language, what's going on?
So one of the initiatives that the administration is putting forward at the middle school is to, in order to try to improve students' reading and writing not comprehension, but abilities, I'm blanking on the word, they are trying to put more time against that. Competency is the word that I'm looking for. They're trying to put more time to that. So they're extending the amount of learning time dedicated to reading and writing. In doing that, they need to free up time. So one of the things that is happening in other districts, and they've done some research to support it, is that they've taken the content and the curriculum around history and social studies, and they want to merge that with the language arts, the reading and writing, and make the content of history the content that you read and write about in those subjects. So it's combining those two. I got an email about this today because, I feel there's been misinformation out there, and I'll be the first to say that maybe we didn't roll this out as well as we could have. So I definitely admit that, but so we're trying to do a little bit of education. But we're not eliminating history. History will still be taught in the schools, just in a different way. It's not being done to eliminate any teachers. It's not being done to reduce teachers. In fact, it's not going to reduce teachers. That's not the plan. While test scores is a factor, it's always a factor. We're not doing it only to improve test scores. 60% of our students at the middle school are at or below grade level reading. It's not acceptable. So we're doing things at the middle school as well as at the lower levels to try to improve that. And this is one of the initiatives that the administration feels that will be a benefit. And I know people feel otherwise. We've had 2 parent information sessions to discuss it. And they did add another one next Wednesday night. I don't know exactly the time, probably 5:30 or 6 at the middle school. And I think we're going to talk about it again at a school committee meeting. So it's still ongoing. We're always looking for parent and teacher input. And, we'll see what happens. But that's the current plan.
Do we, well, all right, so what does the history teacher do? The history is going to continue to teach history?
No, we would have
in theory?
Well, no, we
Or-
would have a language arts teacher who will be teaching reading and writing with the content from
With the
history.
content from history. So
So
what
they'll
does
learn
that?
about.
Okay.
So they'll learn about. Maybe they'll read a book on a certain topic that will be a fictional book, but it'll be take place in another part of the world. There'll be historical references, geographical references, cultural references that'll all be worked into the curriculum, and the students will spend time learning about that while they're reading and writing about it as well. So that's
Okay.
that's the theory. But the teacher will be primarily a language arts teacher who will then
Is
use
this the
that
same
content.
teacher?
I don't know who the teachers
Okay.
will. There could be some changes in teachers. I don't know that.
Okay.
Because I think some of the history teachers will have to be recertified in order to
So
teach that course.
do you think, and my question, do you think that kids are going to come away with the same learnings in history as you may have when you went to school? Do you think that anything is compromised in there? And I guess it's more of just an
Yeah.
opinion because we don't know because we haven't done
Yeah.
it, so we don't really know what the results are. But
I mean, my opinion is I think they're still going to learn it. Maybe they're not going to learn it to the detail or to the level or as in depth as we may have learned it in the past, but they're still going to have history and social studies in the high school as well. That's part of the law that's still required. So those students who learn about it at the middle school and have an interest will still be able to continue down that path in the high school. So yeah, I think it will have an effect. I don't think it's going to be a dramatically negative effect, personally. That's my opinion. And I say that not as an educator, but I'm a parent, and I'm concerned about how my children do in the school.
and that's what I'm thinking. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking the same thing. I mean, I'd like at this age. I have a son that's going to go into the 7th grade,
Yeah.
and I'd like him. I like to when he comes home and he brings his geography maps and
Yeah.
there's the map,
Every
and then
week we do those,
and
yeah.
then there's the conversation though that
Yeah.
takes place at home, and the information that he gives me has been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've said this 100 times. I get very impressed with some of the things that he comes out with that I know where he's learned it, and that I guess. It scares me a little bit that he won't have that level. But if he's going to get it, if it's going to come anyway, I just get nervous that we're going to skip something. And to me, history, American history, the history of the world, how it all happened, and just about freedom and all that kind of stuff. To me, personally, I'm talking me, not emails or anything. This is very important to me.
Yeah.
And I think it should be taught from day one, but I was just wondering what we thought might, or what you thought might, what might happen.
Yeah, and I think things like that the geography, the locations quiz, right? I have a 6th grader as well. So I think those locations quizzes where students are memorizing information, I think some of that, from what I understand, some of that will go away. But what they're trying to build into it is teaching the kids how to research as well. So you may not know exactly where a country is, but you know how to find it. And you know where to
Find
go
out
to
where it
look
is.
for it. So, certainly a different philosophy,
Okay.
but that's part of what I've understood to be the plan as well.
Does this, I mean, how does MCAS impact what we teach? And a lot, you know, do we miss or cut things that might be important, but they're just simply not on the test, so they go away?
I don't think so. I mean,
Okay.
can I say that 100%? No, but I'm sure there are. But I don't think, I mean, I'd love to hear from a teacher about that. I don't think that, I mean, there's certainly time that they spend preparing to take the test. I mean, you want the kids to feel confident and prepared and not nervous or anxious about having to take the test. So there's time that gets spent doing that. But the MCAS is supposed to measure how students are learning and what they're learning, and there are certain standards that they need to understand. So we're teaching them that. So it does go to the test, but it doesn't mean we're teaching them just to the test. And who knows what's going to happen next year. I think we're moving to Park, which is going to throw a wrench in everything because it's going to be a whole different, I don't know if you've done any research into the Park test, but it's very different. I've heard really mixed reviews about that. I'm a little bit concerned about it, but at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the state is going to make that decision.
Yeah,
us.
and there's a lot of things that the state unfortunately makes a lot of decisions for our schools.
They do.
They do. Email comes in. Hey, Mike, you look great on TV. You should go on Gary's show all the time. Hey, you know, I mean, I do have vacations planned. We will need
Let me
a
know.
host of the
Sure,
Freedom
let me
Network
know.
to fill in. You know, about the indirect cost of schools for sidewalk plowing. Would assume it's an estimated charge to the school budget. What if we had very little snow one year? Obviously, it doesn't apply this past year. You're right about that, my friend. Would the unspent funds from a low snow total be redirected back to the schools?
Well, and I'm not.
It's a great question,
Yeah, it is a
actually.
really good question. We usually agree on what the percentages will be ahead of time, and they're usually consistent. They don't really change dramatically from year to year. But one thing that, and I'm not an expert on the full municipal budgeting side, but I believe the snow and ice removal line item is purposely unfunded every year, just because of how it works. So I don't think there's ever, I mean, I'm sure there is, but I don't think on normal years there's money left over in that account. I think they budget it low for, there's some accounting reason why they do it that I don't exactly know.
Yeah, so they don't have to give it back to you.
Well, not I don't exactly know, but I don't think that would result in more money back to the schools, unfortunately.
Okay. Hey, it's you
but-
know what?
but-
I like the
but-
way people are thinking about getting money into the schools.
Hey, the town came up with $450,000
Yes, they
for
did.
next year that we were not counting on or expecting at all, and we were really appreciative of that. That made a huge difference in our FY16 budget. You know, we were looking at really bleak circumstances for next year, and you know, while I wish they were better, they're a lot better than we originally thought.
It's fantastic. All right, I got an email coming in. That other one, by the way, was from Jim. This one is from Becky. Says, just to clarify, at the middle school, they still have to teach a certain content in social studies and histories, but the learning will be more of a reading and writing concept, ? From what I understand, middle school has met with high school. I'm sorry, my eyes are going. Middle school has met with high school to be sure 8th graders are coming over with the knowledge they need in the area of social studies and histories. Is that happening? Do you know?
That sounds like an exact recap of what was
Okay.
shared with the parents at the meeting last night. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so maybe that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where that comes from. Thanks for the emails. You guys are great with the emails. You bring in 99% of the questions that we ask from the Freedom Network to anyone from the town come from the people, and then I just run with them like crazy. Anyway, email question: ask Mike if the town is committed to fixing building issues, or is that in the school's wheelhouse?
Major building fixes are really not in the school budget. I mean, you may recall just this past fall, we tried to do some capital debt exclusions to fix a couple of projects or a couple of systems in the schools that failed. We don't have the budget to maintain that. At the end of the day, they are town buildings. They're town-owned and should be maintained buildings. There's also the Building Planning and Construction Committee, which is involved in some of that as well. And there's a capital plan that the town maintains, a 5-year capital plan that we're constantly, every department is constantly adding items in there. And that could be things that we know are old and are going to break someday. It includes buildings. And it's right on the town, I just noticed it yesterday, it's right on the town front page of their website, the 5-year capital plan, so people should check that out. But I think, ultimately, I think it's a town responsibility. There are things that we have maintenance contracts and things like ongoing maintenance. But if, like when we had the Bomber Kitchen failed last year, I feel that that's a town thing. And, sometimes it requires the voters to support that, and that's what happened. That was voted down. But then the town manager was able to come back to us with some free cash, which I know you don't like that word.
I hate it.
But that's what
Bothers
it's
the
technically
hell
called.
out of me.
And the voters did support using that money without raising taxes to reimburse the schools for that, because that money came right out of our accounts, right out of our revolver, and would have been $90,000 less that we would have had for next year.
Right.
So it makes a difference.
And the only reason I hate the term is because if you had it, then in my opinion, they should give it especially to the schools. If you have the money, give it. I don't see where
like that
the
idea.
big
I
hold
like
up
that
is.
idea.
I don't. To me, it's we got to be safe, and we have to teach the kids. We are in the as we talk about, not to get too political on you, but we are literally in the process of watching this country just decline. And one of the reasons is education. And I think personally that the Fed's got to get out of it. The state's got to get out of the business of education. They've done nothing but spend money on it, but no one has any money. I mean, nationally, we see so much money go to education, but where is it? I mean, where is the money when you have small towns like Northbridge that, the fact of the matter is that we don't require the budget. We don't have the population of a larger town. Where is the help from the state and from the feds? It blows my mind. Anyway, we'll move on. Unfunded mandates. Tough one, I know. Let's just explain what an unfunded mandate is. Very simple. It's when the state or the feds require that you do something and they don't give you the money to do it. So they tell you have to do it, but we're not going to pay for it. Now, there are a lot of unfunded mandates in life, like handicap ramps. That's an unfunded mandate. You have to have one on a building. You have to have access, right? Whether it's a school or any building. No one, the town or the state, or the feds aren't going to come and pay you to do that. But there's other things that they mandate that do cost the taxpayer a lot of money. So I don't know if you know what we spend on unfunded mandates each year, but what information can you give us?
Yeah, I mean, I can't quantify it dollar-wise, but we have been including in our budget information for the last couple of years a list of what we consider to be unfunded and or underfunded mandates. So the state will tell you, well, we give you X amount of money per student, and that we expect that's going to cover all the things that we've told you to do, which is not really realistic. But just some examples of the things that we've included in our budget. Anti-bullying legislation has required us to create policies and procedures, which, there's nothing wrong with that, but that takes our teachers or our staff away from their normal day job. So that's why one of the reasons why this isn't as easily quantifiable dollar-wise, it just might mean time. So a teacher who should be in the classroom is working on aligning our curriculum to the Common Core, which is a requirement.
Yeah, and I mean,
so they're not teaching, but they're doing that. And we don't have a choice to do that. We have to do that. The state's
Sure
not
do.
doing it for us. I don't know why they can't help us with that. But creating assessments for students and how can we make sure that our curriculum is teaching the kids what they need to learn. So our teachers and our administrators are pulled out of their regular job to work on that. There are other things like McKinney-Vento, which is homeless transportation. So if a student is homeless and we're required to provide them busing or transportation to their school, whether it's if they're homeless and in Northbridge and we need to get them to wherever it is that they go to school. We spend probably about $30,000 a year on that the last couple of years, transporting those children. And
where are they coming from?
I don't know. I mean, we have somewhat of a transient. We're in an area where that population comes through this area from time to time. I will say that Senator Fatman, who was at the Selectmen's meeting last Monday night, he's working on legislation that would try to fully fund that. So that would help. Sometimes we do get reimbursement for that, but not usually. So that's where it becomes an unfunded mandate. And there are other things like that, whether it be certification, accreditation for our schools that we have to maintain on a regular basis. The park test, which I mentioned, the park test is intended to be completely an online exam. We are not anywhere near capable of implementing 100% technology-driven exam today. And if they implement park for next year, we'll figure out how to do it. but we don't have the technology to do it today. And that, I've been asking, others have asked, school committee members across the state have asked, can the state put together a program to help us? And they're really not interested in that, of course.
It's, I'm going to tell you, folks, you've got to get, when you talk about, calling or getting involved or emailing or whatever it is, you got to get to your state reps, and you got to get to your reps in Congress. You got to get involved in this. I mean, this is absolutely squeezing out so much, telling that this is what you're going to spend money on, or we're just going to decide that we're going to do this all online.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why they're going to do it all online is because it's cheaper for them. It's probably what it is. That they don't have to, to collect the data, to process it, and all that kind of stuff. So let the town pay for it.
The funny part is one of the original things about being online is I was under the impression, I thought that was one of the expectations is that being online, results would be quicker. Now I'm reading results are actually going to come out later for Park than what happens now with MCAS. And so the kids take the test right around the springtime, and we don't get results until really September. Now they're saying it's going to be even later, which makes absolutely no sense. But I want to make a point about our state legislators. You've mentioned that. I've actually been in contact with Representative Meridian, Senator Fatman, Senator Moore, and all three of them have been very, very supportive. They've been active in our community. Senator Moore and Representative Meridian came to our school committee meeting 2 meetings ago. Senator Fatman will be coming in June. And they're all working on things which could increase funding back to Northbridge, and they're really working hard on that.
They are. As a matter of fact,
appreciate that.
David's got a bill, I think, in committee now.
Yeah.
With redoing the math that they use to
For the
compute
circuit breaker, special education.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to which absolutely positively
Yeah.
would make a lot of sense. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we have to do. Community is your town, but community is also your state, and the state's got to step up a little bit here. They can't just keep telling you that you gotta, but you gotta pony up the money too, because where do you get the money from? Where do you get it from? And what happens if you can't get any more money, which we can talk about in a little bit. Do you see unfunded mandates on the rise then? Is that the trend that you're seeing here? Or are they on the down?
I mean, I haven't seen any new ones come out lately. I mean, there was some I want to call it gun law that was passed last year that did include some what I thought appeared to be unfunded mandates, but those haven't really been implemented. Things like requiring a school resource officer in a district. Well, we'd love to we have a school resource officer. We'd love to have more than one. Can't afford it. So if the state would like us to have more than one, send some money this way. We'll be glad to do that. So that's one thing that has recently come up that I haven't seen a lot other initiatives like that, fortunately.
Okay. Good. All right. What about? I'm checking time because everyone will start jumping around soon. Let me tell you, that 3 and 11 gets going. We got to vacate. You're gonna have to help me reset the studio and everything, Mike. No, we got a few minutes. School choice.
Yeah.
What's it cost us?
Well, we pay. It's $5,000 per student, whether they're coming in or going out. We've been fairly, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for some data here. We've been fairly level. I mean,
Okay.
it hasn't been too much of a swing in terms of the numbers coming in versus going out. Obviously, there are always peaks and valleys to that, but right now, it costs the town about $678,000 for students who are going out. There's 106 students that go out to other districts, but we have 98 coming in, so that's another $524,000 coming into Northbridge. So it's this year it's a net loss of $150, but there have been other years when it's been the other way around, and it's one of those things that we've seen the drops. The two biggest drops we've seen were right after the failed overrides, the recent ones. So that has an impact. But obviously we're doing something right. We actually gained 1 student this year from last year. So students are still coming. Having 90, I looked around some other towns. Some like Uxbridge has half the kids coming into Uxbridge than we do. So that says something about the quality of education that students get here in Northbridge.
Sure.
And a well-rounded education, I think too. I think kids come here for a lot of different reasons.
And you know what? I'll tell you, they do, and I would challenge any adult to have a debate with my son, and you'll be hard pressed to win that, my friend. Okay, hard pressed. I'm impressed with him I went to the debate that they had at the school. It was fantastic. I mean, the kids did such a good job. They were so well prepared.
Yeah.
They had facts, they had figures, and this was hey, let's win or let's lose. I mean, people had score sheets. That's one thing I like about Northbridge. It's okay. We have competitions. Everybody doesn't have to win.
Right.
There's winners and losers. I sent my kid a couple of weeks ago to school in an American tie, American flag tie, that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, that is worth its weight in gold. I'm telling you it is. Can you opt out of school choice?
We can. We just voted last night to remain in school choice.
Okay.
I mean, the way I look at it is we can opt out. We can close certain grades. So if, for example, if kindergarten is really high class sizes, we can say we're not letting any kindergartners in. So we can close those grades. So the way I look at it is we have open seats. We have availability. So it's not going to cost us necessarily any more for that one or two student to come
Right.
and sit in that classroom.
Yeah.
We're already paying the teacher. We're already paying all the other overhead costs.
Yeah, you might
and
as
it's
well
money
take the
that comes in.
$5.
And I've always been focused on, I'm not so much concerned about bringing kids in. I want to minimize the number of kids that leave.
Yeah.
Why can't we keep more in?
Sure.
But you can't stop them from leaving, so you might as well have the opportunity for
Right,
others
because you
to come
can't
in
opt
to try
out
to
of letting them go.
You can't stop them from
Right.
leaving, right?
So-
So at
and
least
it
you can
probably
get
should
some
be that
money
way.
back to try to offset that.
Yeah, it would make no
loss.
sense to not
Right.
at that point. All right, we'll move quickly through a couple quick points. I want to get to one thing before we do have to go. Lots in the news about drugs. We talked about partnerships between the schools and the police department in town. Two great outfits, to be honest with you. What are the schools doing as far as programs and content to deter kids from making that choice about drugs?
Well, actually, we start a program, chemical health, starting in preschool. Started teaching kids about that topic. What's safe, what's not safe, things for them to be aware of. So that's something that happens from preschool right on through. I mentioned the school resource officer. He's very involved in the students and what's going on in the schools. The superintendent and other administrators in town have what's referred to as a monthly roundtable, which includes members from the DA's office, DCF, courts, school adjustment counselors, administrators, and they sit around every month and they talk about what's going on in our schools and what can we do to improve that. I mean, let's face it, we have a drug problem in this town. So when you have a drug problem in the town, like many towns, I mean, we're not different from other towns when it comes to
No,
that, unfortunately,
unfortunately,
right now.
yeah.
And that's going to affect our schools, and it does. We also have an anonymous alert. If you go to the Northbridge Public Schools website, you'll see on the left-hand side, anonymous alert, where a student can, or anyone, student, parent, anybody in town can go online, enter information. If they see a student doing something dangerous, obviously it's a 911 situation, you should call 911, but there have been instances where students have jumped on this, put something on, entered it in, it goes directly to the superintendent, who gets the information and then directs it either to a principal or takes action herself or calls the police. And we've been able to help, address some issues that way too. So there are a lot of things happening around that, for sure.
I'll pepper you a couple of questions.
Go.
Has the budget been level funded year in and year out?
It is not level funded. It's
I'm going to take the liberty of about 30 seconds.
it's
Thank
not
you.
level funded.
All right. So it's gone. Well, it just went up.
The
They
budget
gave
has
you the-
gone up. The budget has
Right.
gone up, but the problem is costs go up more so than the revenue that we get. So for the second year in a row, we will have a reduced services budget. So what we're offering this year, we will not be offering next year. We'll be offering less. And
Okay.
the same from the year before to this year. So 2 years of a reduced services budget is what we have.
Okay. I'm going to blast a couple things off, some emails that came into Mike. It'll take me about 20 or 30 seconds, and then we are going to get out of here. Hey, Mike, make sure you thank Mike for being on the show. It really means a lot to the people. Tell Mike he gets a huge thank you from us in the town for engaging the people, but doing so on the Freedom Network. It doesn't seem many others have the guts to do so, but I bet it won't be so bad. Mike, you do a great job with our schools, and thank you so much for all you do for our town and our kids. Mike on the Freedom Network, priceless. Thank you so much. Gary, tell Mike we disagree from time to time, but on this being on this particular show means so much to the people that watch it. There are many of us, and we're wondering who would show their face on the Freedom Network, and you, sir, have earned my vote by saying yes when no one else will. Tell Mike he needs to get on the BOS and fix that group once and for all. Mike, I want to thank you for being on the Freedom Network today. You're welcome here anytime. We didn't get to the budget. I know I'll catch a lot of flack on it, but it gives us a reason to get you back on.
Absolutely, anytime.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. I'm
Thank
Gary
you for that.
Rosenberg for the Freedom Network. We'll see you next week.